Hey folks, it's Hayden again, also known as Another Beardy Gamer, here for Meeple's People's Circus. Now you've seen hopefully the overview videos where I've looked at a few different insert and boxing options for aftermarket organisation of games. So what we're looking at today is the E-raptor Arkham Horror 3rd edition insert. And this is the one that I was kind of excited about because it says you don't need any glue to build it. It's all snapped together pieces of wood. So I'm going to move the camera around so hopefully you can look top down on what I'm doing. Please ignore the horrendous thinning patch on the back of my head if it pops in every now and then. And I'm going to put together this insert and see how well it stores all the bits and pieces for Fantasy Flight's Arkham Horror 3rd edition. You might remember from the overview video that the instructions for this particular insert aren't printed and inside the packet. You have to scan the QR code to then access a PDF of what goes together where, which is why I've got my iPad to hand here. The instructions themselves, fairly basic and explanatory, but they do link back the cut pieces to each section that we need. So let's make a start. The actual pieces of wood themselves, packaged in this big old Ziploc thing, which you might remember I had ripped a big old hole in earlier. So let's get our bits and pieces out, dump stuff off to one side, and find the sheets that we need. So according to the instructions that I'm looking at here, sheet 1 out of 5 has all the dividers in, so I won't need that just yet. So there is Arkham Horror sheet 1 out of 5. I'm just going to pop this off on the floor beside me. 2 out of 5 is what I need to make the first tray. So let's find 2 out of 5. Does it follow logically? Ooh, that's a bit of wood that looks like it should be part of something. Ooh. Let's find out. Oh, well, that is tray 2 out of 5, so I know where that is. Really should have thought this through and got a bigger area to work on. So I'm just going to move this all to one side for now. And this is where we would start something along the lines of the Benny Hill kind of music, because we're going to speed this up a little bit. I think no one really wants to sit here and watch me do this all in real time. So we need side piece and side piece. We need the base of the tray and we need the sides of the tray. So all of these pieces spin and snap out really nicely. I don't really think I'm going to need a sander for this because the actual wood is very smooth. There are a few rough bits where obviously the laser comes and cuts over. What I might do is just go back over these once I've got it all built up and just smooth them down with a scalpel. So let's see what we are doing here. We need one of the insert pieces from tray 1, so I'll just grab one of those. So let's have a look-see here. That apparently slots into there. That is supposed to just clip straight through with these clips. Click and click. Same for this one, apparently is just click and click, although I do get the impression that I have clicked that in upside down, so how easy is it to get it back out? Fairly. Let's click it back in the right way around, that would probably help. Same for this side, click and click, making sure it's the right way around this time. Slot that into there. And then click and click. Make sure this is in here. And click and click. needs to make sure that that's facing the same way. Okay, click and click. Click and click and click. Well, they weren't lying, it definitely goes together without glue. So let's have a look-see here. We don't need that piece, or that piece, or that piece, or that piece, or that piece. So these bits that I'm just punching out at the moment, these are basically space fillers. These are what we need to remove to make the clip together joints work properly at the sides there. Now what it looks like is before I actually put this onto the base, I need to put all of the card dividers in the top, which is shown on the instructions just here. So back comes sheet 1 out of 5. That goes off to one side and out of the way. So we want all of these pieces. 7. Dropped. So flip this back upside down and let's look to start putting these in place. And what I'm doing, just for the sake of my own sanity more than anything else, is I am building from the center one that is already snapped in, and I am building out. Although I am kind of worried it's going to scratch the table, so I'm just going to build it on one of my pads. So that goes in, and I think it just continues one by one by one by one. Right, that's the actual card dividers back in. So what we're going to do now is pop the back on. So we get the back out of this mess here, and then this whole set should just clip straight down into here. So making sure that I've lined all the clips up. Clip it on that side, clip it in there. Clip it through that side. And that is the first tray completely built with no glue, which is kind of impressive really. So no glue's been used, it's all clipped together, feels pretty sound, feels pretty solid. First impression, I'm not 100% sure about the spacing on these, just to see how well it's actually going to organise the cards, especially as I have them sleeved, but time will tell. Let's get the other bits built and then come back to it all. Right folks, off camera I have built the rest of the trays. So we have token tray, card tray, card tray. This is everything that is supposed to be organising First impressions, it did not take long to build at all. Maybe 30-35 minutes. There were a few bits where I really should have paid a bit more attention to the instructions, purely because I ended up with a few pieces that were backwards and that I had to unclip, spin and put back in again. And the good news is it was relatively easy to actually undo the clips, remove the piece and get it all back in and clipped and sorted. I can definitely see that it's not something I would want to do very often, to take these clips apart, but in terms of ease of build, it does exactly what it says on the tin. No glue needed, snap together, really quick, really easy. One thing that I'm a little wary about, and this is something that Darius will, I'm sure, comment on at some point, I like to store my board games vertically. You saw them all behind me in the earlier picture. I'm not so sure that this facilitates vertical storage with the token trays, but we'll try it and see. Now, a couple of gripes. The instructions. Page 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's all the instructions. There is nothing else in here about how these are organised within the box or what goes in what tray. So for that, I've actually gone to the E-raptor website and had a look through the images that are on there. And from here, I can pick out what goes where in the trays, but it's, and roughly, very roughly, how these trays are supposed to be organised in the box. It's, yeah, that as I said, that's my main gripe with how this goes together. So what I'm going to do now is take everything out of my many baggies that I have, Arkham Horror. So this is my current organisation system. It's baggies with the name of what each card is on there and a token bank. All of this is apparently going to go into these and fit absolutely fine and dandy. Now the issue here is I don't know, after the tokens, which set of cards is designed to go where in here. It doesn't facilitate that very well. So I think that is going to be a little bit of trial and error. So I'm going to have a fiddle around with that off camera, off screen, transfer this lot into here, and then I will have a chat about what I find going where, rather than all of you guys having to sit and watch me go, is it this one, is it this one, is it this one? Do that off screen and then we'll come back and see where we go. So back in 2 minutes, folks. Right, folks. Off camera, I've been organising and putting cards and everything in place. So impressions on the finished insert and the filled insert. Simultaneously, really impressed, but also a little bit disappointed. So let's crack the box open. Rulebooks sit on top, as rulebooks always do. And then we have Elder Thing cards that can quite easily be moved to a slightly different place. This is not part of the game as such. This is something I've added in as the Chaos bag. We have the encounter card stand, we have the neighbourhood districts, we have the card trays. So underneath the neighbourhood districts, we have the first token tray. Now our investigators sit recessed in this tray. They are probably going to be, just for the sake of my sanity, living in a little baggie so they don't all start dropping out and sliding around the place. I don't mind a baggie or two. This is one of the points that I'm kind of disappointed with. Because I store vertically, we can straight away see what one of the problems with this insert is going to be. That's something I can fix relatively easily. All I need to do is cut a piece of thin plastic card to match the top of this. Job done, because once this is in there, the weight will keep it down. That's not the end of the world. That's something I can do quite easily. In terms of setting up to play, there are my neighbourhoods, there are my streets, there are my improvement and investigator tokens and investigators, there are my tokens, my clues, my damage. So it does a lot of the things that I would expect a decent organiser to do. It separates things out. I can't help comparing this to Broken Toad's generic organisers, because for token trays they are very, very good in having trays that have a perspex lid to them that slide in place and that will stop all of these tokens just flying around within the box. Again, it's something I can do, it's something I can add to it, but I don't want to buy an organiser and add things to it. So next is the small card tray. So what I have done in the largest section is the biggest set of cards for Arkham Horror in the small cards. These are the monster cards. Following the monster cards, the next largest stack are the investigator specific resources and tokens, items. So the investigator deck goes next. We then have our general items. We have our sort of more unique items. We have spells, smaller deck. We have allies, smaller deck. We have conditions, smaller deck. There is not a huge amount of free space in the monster pool or the investigator pool, but there's a fair amount of space here for expansions, and we know that Fantasy Flight has already announced the first expansion, so there's going to be more cards coming. That's one of my worries. It's not hugely future-proof, this. So we're going to put that back into the corner there, and we're going to get out the large card tray. Now this is the one that I'm afraid I do have a bit of a gripe with. This tray was clearly built and designed to fit the cards by their backing, and that's fine, that's great, that's, you know, how most card games and games would work. That doesn't work for Arkham Horror because of the way it's set up and designed. This side of the tray, fine, perfect, not a problem. This side of the tray, problem if you want it playable out of the box. So what I've got set up in the tray that's all fine or dandy, I have the anomaly decks. Next to the anomaly decks, which admittedly I would have liked to have been separate, but I'm okay with the three of them being in the one place. I can separate them easily. Next to the anomaly deck is the headline deck. That's fair enough, that's not a problem. Next time, the headline deck is the largest of the big card decks, the Codex. This is what Arkham Horror uses to tell its stories. Then we have player aid cards. There's only 6 of those. We have Uptown, we have Rivertown, we have the Merchant District. Basically, we have all of the generic cards for each area, each district of the game. So East Town, Miskatonic University, Downtown, etc, etc. If you've played any sort of Arkham Horror or Eldritch Horror game before, you know what goes on with these cards. Now, the issue that I had with this side of the box, in the core game of Arkham Horror 3rd edition, there are 4 Elder Things. There are 4 different stories that you can play through. And Arkham Horror has these stories split. So this, for example, is the event encounters for Echoes of the Deep. This is all 24 cards for the Echoes of the Deep set. But if you look at the back of these cards, they reflect the neighbourhoods. And they are split by neighbourhood. Now, that is for every individual, each one of the 4 basically is split into different encounters for these different neighbourhoods. And the way the original setup for this tray was, I would have had to have split these out and put all of the encounters for Uptown from the 4 different stories in one divider. Then all of the encounters for Southside from all 4 different stories in one divider. And then all the encounters for Rivertown, and then all the encounters for Miskatonic University, and so on and so forth, which would have meant at setup I would have to then go through these and find the cards that I need, and that defeats the idea of an organizer for me. Easy fix. Remove 4 of these dividers. And that means I can then store all of the story encounters together. So if I could decide to play through Veil of Twilight, here is my Veil of Twilight stories. I can put them straight into the Invent Encounter discard, Invent Encounter draw deck. Here are all of my stories for Approach of Azathoth. Here are all of my stories for the one that I've literally just picked up, Echoes of the Deep. And here are all of my stories for A Feast for Umhordoth. It's the one change that I've had to make to actually make this a usable from the box insert. It's not the end of the world, it's just mildly irritating. Proof of the pudding for this I think is going to be in the eating, but I can already see it does one of the main jobs that I want an insert to do. It makes setup for me much, much quicker and much, much tidier. I can decide which Elder Thing, which story, there's my codex, there are my neighbourhoods, everything is there. It is going to be quicker than my baggies. Great to build with the snap together components. It was really quick. I am not a huge fan of the way that this particular design is put together for vertical storage, but I can make that work. I can work around it. So first impressions for the cost of it, and for what it does. If you're a horizontal stacker like our good friend Darius, absolutely fine, go for it. Vertical stacker, little tweaks needed, and yeah, taking those 4 dividers out is definitely the way forward. I've got another E-raptor insert to build that is for Gloomhaven. So this was my sort of tester. I've got to say I'm a little apprehensive about building Gloomhaven now. I know it'll go together fine. It's the usability of it that we'll see how it goes. And anyway, let's pop this all away. Let's pop it back into the box. So still in the box I have the small card holders, large card holder, investigator tokens, health, sanity, clues, money, remnants, dice, anomalies, generic tokens and chaos tokens, skill improvements, investigator activation tokens, streets, investigators. The Elder Things and the investigators can go in that little recess area that we've mentioned earlier. Having the Elder Things in there does make it a little bit too big. So I think that's why in a lot of the pictures the Elder Things I've seen aren't in with these investigators. They are off to one side over here. There is my encounter stack. There is my edition of the Chaos Bag. There are the neighbourhoods. And last but not least, rulebooks. On goes the lid. Arkham Horror is packed away. Just so I can see how bad the damage is. There it is. It's been on my shelf. It's gone in vertically. It's come out vertically. We've done the Macarena with it. And all in all, it's not too badly shifted. There's a couple of things that have moved around from where they should have been, but not really end of the world stuff. So yeah, there we go. That was impressions and build. Ooh, it's a token that escaped down the side. For the E-raptor Arkham Horror 3rd edition insert. I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm probably going to end up having to go back to the baggies once the first expansion is released to fit everything back in the box. But until then, it will get me playing this a little bit more. Thank you for watching, folks, and I will see you at some point in another video on Meeple's People's Circus.